So I wanted to bring some feedback and some opinions on Warzone 2 Battle Royale after I've been playing it solidly for about 4 days. I've got positives to talk about, I've got negatives to talk about, and maybe some like neutral areas in between where, based on my own opinion, I think things could be different, but I also kind of understand why things are the way they are at the moment. Now, I'm certainly not the best Warzone player, and I'm still learning a lot about this new map and all the new mechanics, but there are more obvious things that have stood out to me that I think could have feedback given on them in the hopes that it can make the game better. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, by the way. More Warzone 2 streams and videos will be on their way over the next few weeks. About 75% of people watching the channel at the moment aren't subscribed, and we're trying to reach 900,000 subscribers over here. So if you can help us get there, that'd be awesome. Just before we get into all of that, today's video is sponsored by Displate. Displate make metal posters. They're perfect for quickly getting some awesome high-quality artwork up on your walls. Installation is simple using Displate's mounting system. Stick a leaf to the wall, stick a magnet onto that, and then your artwork on top. Done. Simple. You can switch posters whenever you like since everything is done with magnets, and because displates are made of metal, they're going to last a long time, so they'll surely survive a move across your home if you want to mount them somewhere else in the future. There are hundreds of thousands of designs available on Displate's website, including these awesome Call of Duty designs that I've put up in my office. So go ahead and click the link at the top of the description right now for access to Displate's biggest ever discounts for Black Friday. 35% off if you buy 1 or 2, 39% off if you buy 3 or 4, and a massive 44% off if you buy over 5 displates. Go now and find your perfect displate. Okay then, let's get started. I'm going to go into some positive things first of all, and we'll start with the new map, Al Mazrah. It's massive, it's vast, and it's completely different to what we've had before, and so far, I've been really enjoying it. There's lots of unique POIs, each with their own structures. Places like Observatory, for example, they sit at the tallest point of the map, and they've still got these huge vertical elements, like standing on top of the telescopes, but then there's a lot of ground play that goes on around it. Places like Said City, where you've got this complex of buildings sitting next to a massive shopping mall. That gives you loads of vertical layers to fight over. And then there's places like Hydroelectric near the center of the map that already seems to have become one of the hottest drops there. I also like that the map is more vivid and colorful than Verdansk was. Verdansk was very like grey, very bleak, this kind of Soviet landscape. I much prefer the colors and theme that we've got going on here over on Al Mazrah. There are plenty of open areas on this map as well compared to Verdansk, so using vehicles is definitely going to be more of a play style that you see through the life of this game, and that's going to give a lot of weight to the overhaul of the vehicle system as well. You've got elements like being able to pop tires or slow down enemies by blasting doors off the side and doing damage to them. And then of course there's the fuel system as well. That's already caught me and my squad out quite a few times, just running out of fuel and forgetting that that's part of the game now. Al Mazrah it's a really good battleground for this new Warzone experience, and I'd argue that without a good base map, you haven't really got a great Battle Royale experience, so I got to give the high marks to the team for this one. I've seen a lot of people talking about the pacing and the changes to the core gameplay loop in Warzone 2, really slowing things down a bit, and you can certainly feel that when you're playing. Circles are going to close slower, the map is much bigger, so players are more spread out, and the time that it can take for you to complete a rotation is much longer. There's quite a significant amount less cash in the world as well, so it's kind of harder to get yourself into a position where you're feeling comfortable with weapons you've got, or various things like self-res and all the plates that you need, or even bringing your teammates back into the game. Because there's less cash, it's harder to do that. It feels like the devs have deliberately done pretty much everything they can to slow this game down and bring it more into line with what we see from other Battle Royale games like PUBG and Apex Legends. Now, I'm a little bit split on this, actually. I'm happy that we've moved on from the Caldera Mega Speed Crouch Slide Movement Simulator. The movement nerfs have certainly worked, but that's not the only element that comes into the pacing and the gameplay loop. Aside from the movement, I think there could be improvements made to the pacing, because it can be very difficult to regain a footing in a match if anything has gone against you in the early parts of the game. Let's say you're coming back from the gulag. You're going to need cash to either buy a weapon, or you're going to buy plates, or even buy a teammate back so that you're not solo. There's less cash in the world, so that's really not that easy. Then the buy stations are that much further apart because the map is bigger. And a lot of the time, enemy teams are going to be holding those buy station locations because they know it's a power play. But because they're further apart, and perhaps they're sort of more sparse in those finishing circles, it's harder for you to get access to the buy station so that you can buy your teammates back. So the punishing aspect of Warzone 2 is very punishing. And Warzone has kind of led the way with allowing you to get back into a match after a setback. So if you're the last player alive in a quad, you're going to find it really hard to get back into that comfortable or confident position that where you could possibly go for a win in that round. And at the moment, it's often better to just quit the match and then matchmake again, which isn't a good thing. Trust me, the developers will not want people quitting matches and re-queuing. And I'm seeing a lot of people doing that. And it's happened quite a few times on my stream already where one of us has just gone, you're the only one alive, do you want to just quit and rematch make? And 90% of the time, that's exactly what we've done. So let's see how this pans out over the next month or so. I've got a feeling that the game will get faster because people will learn more and more about the map and all the different places they can go and all the various gameplay elements. But right now, I'm just a bit conflicted because the movement nerfs are great for the pacing of the game, but the overall pacing now might just be a little bit too slow and a little bit too punishing. The gunplay and the time to kill, I'm mostly liking where it sits right now. Floor loot seems really powerful in Warzone 2. There's lots of different weapons that you can find that have got decent magazine sizes to start with. It's not hard to find a weapon with a few attachments on it to give you a little bit more confidence in some of those early game gunfights. Because it's not as simple to get your loadout weapons in Warzone 2 as it has been in the past, I can really understand the developers pushing floor loot harder and giving people incentive to carry that floor loot for longer periods of the game. The time to kill in Warzone 2 is pretty short, there's no denying that, but I have found that at longer ranges in those gunfights, I'm not dying anywhere near as often as I was in Warzone 1, and that is extremely welcome. With most weapons having harder to control recoil in this game, longer range gunfights, they kind of just break down before they can really get started, because players just kind of realize that those guns are not built for those ranges, unless they're using like a marksman rifle or a sniper, and that can deal greater damage at those longer ranges. You're not out there smashing someone at 150 meters with your M4 and every single shot lands anymore. Most of the time, I'm finding that if you close the gap, if you get the gunfights down into like the 50 to 75 meter range at a maximum, that's where there's a lot more winning and losing of gunfights happening. Beyond those ranges, the gunfights are just so extended and you're unlikely to actually get a kill unless you're a really good sniper and you can follow up with those shots. Now, as a PC player on mouse and keyboard, I know I'm still at a huge disadvantage at closer ranges, so I'm doing my best not to rush enemies at close range, especially since at the moment I don't really know the layouts of most of the areas of the map or even the insides of buildings, so I'm kind of trying to stick to those mid-range engagements where, as a PC player, I know I've got maybe a bit of an advantage over a controller player. But certainly, the time to kill and the overall weapon balance, I think, is sitting in a pretty good position, apart from snipers, and I'll talk about those a little bit later on. Would I like a little bit more health on players? Yes, because then at close range I wouldn't die immediately, but I know a lot of people are comfortable with how the TTK sits right now, and I can kind of deal with it. I know where my strengths lie, and I'll probably fight those fights if I get them. And then the proximity chat, a massive win for Warzone 2. It's going to provide endless hours of entertainment for people that are just hauling themselves around the map, hunting down enemies, and messing with them over comms. Right now, so many people just have their mics left open in the game, so as soon as you walk into that detection range for an enemy, you instantly hear people talking and it giving away a lot of critical info. That's probably going to change over the next couple of months as more people get used to the game and they realize they've got to be more strategic, but it's always going to provide those cool moments. We have the death comms in Warzone 1, now we've got proxy chat in Warzone 2. It's a great addition. Okay then, let's move on to the issues, and we've got to start with the bugs, the glitches, the broken features, and the performance, because right now I think it's fair to say that Warzone 2 is in a pretty rough state. Lots of people can't launch the game, loads of people, including myself, are experiencing game crashes multiple times over. Some people, the UI just randomly disappears during a match and doesn't come back, so you can't make out friendlies from enemies. One issue in particular that I've seen happen countless times in my experience is enemy player character models not syncing closely enough with their first-person perspective. So, say for example, you're looking at an enemy who's maybe 70 meters away, you're running parallel to them, often you're seeing a slightly delayed stance for that enemy. In their first-person view, they're about half a second ahead of that stance. Now, half a second doesn't sound like much, But when we're talking about TTKs in the 400 to 700 milliseconds in Warzone 2, that really can be the difference between you seeing a player and reacting first, or that player hitting you first with the first shot in a gunfight. And invariably that means they're going to win the gunfight. It's actually an issue that's been present as far back as Caldera in Warzone 1, pretty much at the beginning of Caldera Season 1. And the issue goes just beyond a delay, because it's actually giving you a very false representation of the situation. On my screen, it might look like an enemy isn't looking at me, but on theirs, they've already moved to look at me, and I start taking damage before the enemy character's model has even turned round to face me. The delay is long enough that you can see muzzle flashes coming from an enemy model before the animation of them turning around to face you has even completed, which is a big, big issue. So hopefully that can be fixed, along with the myriad of other problems like the no downstate bug after you come back from the gulag, which is equally annoying. And I will say generally, performance on this map is not brilliant at the moment. I found that even with my very beefy rig over here, I'm struggling to get the frame rates anywhere near close to what I was getting in Warzone 1. I'm still trying to turn everything down on the lowest settings with the lowest latency possible, and I'm still not really getting that high frame rates with my setup. So maybe that's a me problem, I'm not sure, but I have seen other people say that they don't really feel the performance is brilliant either. So I think some general overall optimizations across the map could be really helpful for performance and frame rate. Then there's the looting system. There's lots of issues at the moment of loot not having proper collision on them, so they just overlap each other, meaning you sort of have to unstack all the items that are stacked on top of each other if you want to get to the item at the bottom, and that usually happens to be the most important item that you really want, and now someone's just shot you in the back. So you can see how that would be quite frustrating. This was an issue in Warzone 1 as well, and I kind of thought it would be a high priority quality of life change for Warzone 2, but so far it seems that it wasn't really addressed, and if I'm honest, it's actually worse in Warzone 2 than it was in Warzone 1. So maybe just some of that tech didn't get moved over, I'm not sure. It needs to be addressed in my opinion, because as well as the vomit looting, which is where all your individual items just go out on the floor in front of you, we have this menu-based looting as well, with player backpacks having to be accessed and certain duffel bags and medicine cabinets having menus on them. I'm getting used to it, but essentially, we're actually being subjected to two different systems of looting, each fighting to be the one that gets used the most. It feels like two different design ideas both got greenlit and implemented into the game, and there wasn't enough time to take one of them out and then just have a single system in place, so they both just exist side by side. I'm sitting on the vomit loot side of the fence, which sounds disgusting, but I think having all the loot fall out onto the ground with proper collision in place, so it's not going over the top of each other, is definitely the way to go. Because contextual looting of ammo, cash, plates, extra tacticals and lethals that you're already holding, that works really well in Warzone 2. You can just run past that stuff if it's on a shelf, and it will pick it up really nice and quick and just add it into your inventory. That's great. And that's where I think having like a vomit loot system works really well. But then we've also got the looting of backpacks, which is just slower and more cumbersome. I just don't think these two systems really fit very well together, and it feels like two systems that got advancedly developed, and then somebody didn't say no to one of them and didn't say yes to the other, so both of them just got implemented, and now they exist right next to each other. One of them needs to be picked, and I think we should go back to the system we had in Warzone 1 with that vomit looting on the floor and stuff. That just works better for me. Now, I said the snipers as part of the gunplay system is something that I don't like in Warzone 2 at the moment, and the reason for that is because there are no one-shot headshot snipers in the game at the moment if a player is fully plated with a 3-plate armor vest on. 2-plate armor vest, no problem, one shot to the head, and that player's going down. But when you have a time to kill that is really quite short, not having at least some of the snipers, maybe the heavy ones, have that one-shot headshot potential, that's quite puzzling to me. There are a couple of weapons that you can follow up really fast, that initial shot, and get a second shot on target and get a down in this game. I think it's some of the DMR-style marksman rifles that can do that. So then having bolt-action snipers that cannot one-shot headshot, where landing a second shot takes so much longer, you're basically nullifying the sniper weapon category, and you're allowing another weapon category to do all of that work. And trust me, it's way less satisfying getting downs with a DMR-style marksman rifle than it is getting a one-shot headshot with a sniper rifle. There's a very different experience between the two. So my solutions would be, first of all, option number one, introduce this heavy sniper category where maybe a couple of snipers can one-shot headshot, but they are slower rechamber speed snipers, they've got more recoil after each shot, almost exactly like the system in place in Warzone 1 on Caldera. Only the HDR, the ZRG, and a couple of others could one-shot headshot, and then the other snipers would be able to fire faster. You could get that follow-up shot on like the chest or something, and you'd be able to get a down. A system like that I think would work really well, but what I would prefer is not nullifying the sniper rifle category completely, and just make sniper rifles a one-hit headshot. Because in this game, the distances that you're sniping people at, because the map's bigger, is much further. So actually landing those one-shot headshots, I think, in Warzone 2 is harder than what it was in Warzone 1. So I think just going back to a system where you allow sniper rifles to have one-shot headshot potential is better, because you're not taking an entire playstyle out of the game completely. Now, I've just spent a bit of time talking about that 2-plate and 3-plate armor vest system with the snipers. I want to go into more detail here. I've already mentioned how it negatively affects the snipers, but I think just in general, it shouldn't be in place as a system in the game. When you spawn in, you have this 2-plate vest on, and you've got 2 plates on, but you can find a 3-plate vest by looting or completing contracts. They're really quite abundant across the map. They're very easy to find, but if you are ever in a gunfight where you have a 2-plate vest and an enemy has a 3-plate vest, you are immediately at a disadvantage. And the most important and frustrating part of this system is you have absolutely no idea if the enemy has more plates than you until you fire your gun and you see what color hit marker shows up if you hit the target. There is no visual identifier on the enemy player that shows up that they might have more armor unless you engage them in a gunfight and find out. Purple hit markers are 3 plates and blue hit markers are 2. That is an absolutely terrible system. Trust me, it's awful. In other games like PUBG, you know if a player has a level 3 helmet on, because you can actually see it on their character. They're literally wearing it. That gives you the information that it might not be best to take that gunfight if you've not got equivalent or better armor than that player, because then you'd be going into the gunfight knowing you had more armor and probably a better chance of winning. However, in Warzone 2, I don't think the dev team could even implement that visual solution to this problem, having 2 or 3 plate vests show up on players' bodies, maybe with different icons or something like that, to physically show what vest a player is wearing, because this game sells you full character skins that cannot be broken up into items of clothing and swapped around like they can in PUBG. So, because of the complete lack of information going into a gunfight, and because you can't visually show players how many plates an enemy has on unless you fire a shot at them, I think the team should just do away with this 3-plate vest as an option thing and just revert to what we had in Warzone 1, a system that worked perfectly fine. You spawn in with 2 plates, but you've always got a space for a 3rd plate. Everyone always has 3-plate slots available, and you eliminate this completely opaque system from the game and make the game and the gunfights instantly easier to read. Then the circle split system, I'm not really a fan of that, to be honest. It feels like another element of the overall pacing of Warzone 2 where the development team has just gone too far, because you lose a lot of the tension that's supposed to ramp up consistently during a round, because you're physically splitting players into 2 groups or 3 groups, and it always feels like I'm in the circle that's got way less action than the other one. Because every time it's happened, especially with the 3-circle split, I think people are just too far away from each other. It just takes all of the tension out of the round that's built up to that point. I like the concept. I think it's a pretty cool idea, but in practice, implementation, it just hasn't worked out. So I think it would be kind of cool if it was like an in-game event, like the jailbreak or maybe the fire sale, where it happens like once every 10 rounds or so. Throw it in as a curveball. And admittedly, this doesn't always happen. The circles don't always split. Sometimes they just stay as one. But overall, I think this is just a bit too much of a negative on the overall pacing. Pinging locations in the game at the moment is dependent on the color that you have in your settings menu for the neutral icon. It doesn't follow the color of the players down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So let's say Stod marks a place and he's green. Well, that icon doesn't come up as green. It comes up as white, and it's hard to see unless you've changed the color in the settings. I've changed mine to pink. I think in the gameplay behind it's still set to white. We were getting confused all the time as to where a ping might have been, so we just defaulted to doing a double tap danger ping instead, and then we'd sometimes get a little bit confused because it's like, well, why did you mark a danger ping? Is there danger there? Is there a player there? Or are we just trying to go to that location? So I think, once again, we need to go back to Warzone 1's system and take the color of the player activating the ping and making the ping that color so you know which player pinged it and so that you can see it behind all the other colors that are in the game. White is the worst choice. I would say right now, if your neutral color in the settings is still white, change it to something else so at least you can see it. So that's just about everything that I wanted to talk about in this video that I've written down over the last few days because I wanted to try and keep track of these things so I could make this video. And there will be many things that I've missed, so please feel free to use the comment section down below, leave some of your thoughts and opinions, maybe highlight some really important things to you that you feel are good, bad, things that could be easily changed, whatever it happens to be, put it down below in the comments section. Hopefully somebody out there might be watching this video and they can use that information, maybe do, I don't know, some changes, playtesting, whatever. Hopefully we can make a positive difference to this game and help it move in the right direction. I know I've spoke about a lot of negative things in this video, but trust me, it's much easier to remember the negative things because they stand out a lot more. But if you've watched any of my streams over the last few days, you'll know that when Warzone 2 works and you don't have many bugs, it is really fun. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be improved. So hopefully this feedback goes some way to helping somebody somewhere make this game even better. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you all soon.